Hello. Let us look at the some review questions for the upcoming exam. The topic will be trigonometry. So let us look at the first question here. Uh, what represents the ratio of cosecant A here? So angle A is right over here. But what is cosecant? Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine of A. So whatever sine would have been, we just have to get the reciprocal of that. Then what is sine? Sine is the opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite would have been 7. Hypotenuse is 25. So 7 over 25 is the sine. Then cosecant will be the reciprocal of that, which is 25 over 7. So which is choice 2 becomes our answer. Let's look at the second question here. In the right triangle shown below, what is the measure of the angle S? So how do you find the measure of the angle S but to the nearest minute? So first, knowing that 8 and 17 are the sine ratio, so sine of angle S would have been equal to 8 over 17. How do you find the angle S? S will be basically, we can call it arc sine, or in your calculator you can say second sine over 8 over 17. If you put this one in, you can easily get, I believe it is a 28.07 degrees. But you can multiply 07 degrees by 60. Then you will get, this will be equal to 28 degrees. And if you have to multiply that by 60, then you will get 4.2. So we get 4 minutes. So 28.4, which is choice 2, becomes our answer. All right, number 3 here. Which line segment is equal to the sine theta here? Notice that on the unit circle, sine theta is equivalent to y. So in this case, what is the y value? Right over here, that's right. Y value is TS. So TS is our answer, which is choice 2 once again. All right, so let's look at the next question here. What is sine of 180? See, if you look at the coordinate planes, to have sine of 180 degrees, the angle has to go down way down right over here. That means what is the reference angle? Reference angle is equal to 0. So this one is the same thing as sine of 0 degrees. What's sine of 0 degrees? That's equal to 0. Then which one of these 4 get to 0? So you can put them into calculator if you want to, but if you memorize that, you can see that tangent of 45 is equal to 1. Cosine of 90 is equal to 0, in fact. So our answer will be choice 2. But what is cosine of 0? That's equal to 1. Tangent of 90, that's undefined. So therefore, once again, one way or the other, we can see that choice 2 would have been our answer. Number 5. What is the value of this one? So what is sine of 60? Sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. What is cosine of 60? That's in fact 1/2. So when you multiply them, we get radical 3 over 4 becomes our answer, which is choice 4. What is the value of cosine of negative 240 degrees? So we can look at this one in a couple different ways. First method which we can do it is this. Imagine we have x-axis and y-axis. Where do you think cosine of 240 might be located at? See, negative means we have to go opposite direction. Up to here is 90, up to here is 180, up to here is 270. The fact that it has to be negative 240, that means it will be somewhere around here. This green angle would be negative 240. Then to figure this value out, we have to find the reference angle. How do you figure the reference angle out? Because as you can see from here to all the over here, that is equal to 180. Or should I say negative 180, because I'm going opposite direction. Then what is the small reference angle? That will be 240 minus 180. I made it into positive because I'm just looking for the difference of the angles, which you will get 60 degrees. So reference angle is equal to 60 degrees. But since this is in the second quadrant, only sine is positive. You can know that by all students taking calculus, right? That acronym, that will let us know. So then what we end up getting is this value is equal to negative cosine, because cosine in the second quadrant is negative, and the reference angle was 60. So we end up getting negative, what is cosine of 60? That's equal to 1/2. So negative 1/2 is our answer. Choice 1 would be the answer then. Number 7. So now, what is the value of sine of pi over 6 and tangent of pi over 4? Now, whenever you look at the radian measures, sometimes it's kind of difficult for you to convert from radian to the degrees. So if you memorize a few popular ones, then I think it'll be easier for you to do that. Pi over 2 is quite popular. Pi over 3 is next popular. Pi over 4 is the next one. And pi over 6 is the next one that follows. Pi over 2 is in fact equal to 90 degrees. Next one is a 60 degrees. Next one is 45 degrees. And this one is equal to 30 degrees. Now, in fact, there's one easy way for you to remember. I mean, once you get used to it, these are quite easy for you to follow. But did you notice that if you multiply these two numbers, you will always get 180? So here we end up getting sine of pi over 6 becomes sine of 30 degrees. Tangent of pi over 4 becomes tangent of 45 degrees. Then what do we end up getting? Sine of 30 is 1/2. Tangent of 45 is equal to 1. So when you add them up, we get 3 over 2 as our answer, which is choice 1. Number 8, the numerical value of this one. So in fact, in this case, pi over 2 is 90, but 90 times 3 becomes, that's right, sine of 270 degrees. Plus cosine of, this one is equal to what? 45 degrees. As we talked about it in the previous slide here. Now what is sine of 270? I mean, you could have put it into calculator, you would have seen it quite easily. Or when you look at the quadrants here, 270 means this is 90, 180, 270 goes right over here. Then the reference angle, meaning angle with the x-axis, would have been 90. But since it's on the third or fourth, between third and fourth quadrant, sine, meaning the y values on the unit circle, would have been negative. So we end up getting negative 1 for sine of 270. Negative comes from the quadrant, 1 came from the sine of 90, the reference angle. And cosine of 45 is, as we know, radical 2 over 2. So then our answer is choice 3. Let's look at number 9. So here, what is pi over 6? Pi over 6 is 30 degrees. So then that's equal to sine of 7 times 30, which is 210. Then once you look at the quadrant, 210 degrees is on the third quadrant. 90, 180, 210. So 210 actually came from 180, 30 more degrees. So you know the reference angle is equal to 30. So then we end up getting sine of 30 degrees, but since it's on the third quadrant, sine has to be negative. So then, what is sine of 30? That's equal to 1/2, so we get negative 1/2 as our answer, choice 2. All right. So what is the coordinate of this point x comma y? Since it's on the third quadrant, x and y values are all negative, which is the case for, in fact, all of them. Now, what is the x value? X value deals with the cosine. So then we get negative cosine of 30 degrees. That's the x value. How about y value? Negative sine of 30 degrees. That would be the, in fact, coordinates. So what is the negative cosine of 30? That's equal to negative, that's right, radical 3 over 2. and then negative 1/2. That becomes our answer, which is choice 1 becomes the answer. All right, let's look at number 11. What is sine of 190 equal to? If I were to draw the coordinate planes right over here, 190 would have been a bit more than 180. But what is the reference angle? Reference angle would be 10 degrees because that's 10 degrees more than 180. But since it's on the third quadrant, we know the sine has to be negative. So negative sine of 10 degrees would have been our answer, choice 3. Number 12. How about tangent of negative 240? Negative, once again, I have to go backwards. This is 90, 180, 270. So the fact that I want to go for negative 240, then it's going to be somewhere around here. This is similar to the previous question, from here to here. But to find the reference angle, which is between 180 to 240, we know that that's equal to 60-degree angles. And tangent in the second quadrant is equal to negative, so we know that this is equal to negative tangent of 60 degrees, which is choice 3. Number 13, we need to prove that this one is true. Secant is equal to 1 over cosine of x minus cosine is simply cosine of x. How can I do this one? You see, I have one thing on the right side while two things on the left side, so I can put this one over 1, and to have the common denominator, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by cosine of x. Then we end up getting denominator is cosine of x. Numerator becomes 1 minus cosine square of x. But what is 1 minus cosine square? That's equal to sine square. So why don't I write down sine square as sine x and then sine x divided by cosine of x. Then you can see that here sine matches, but sine over cosine is equal to tangent, so we get to realize that sine of x times tangent of x becomes our final answer. All right, let's look at number 14. How about this one? Tangent, we know that is equal to sine of x over cosine of x. And then cosecant is 1 over sine. So we know that these two cancels out. Then we are left with 1 over cosine of x. But what is 1 over cosine of x? That's equal to secant of x, and that checks out right over here. All right, let's look at number 15. How about this one? How are we going to prove this? So sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1 over 1 minus sine square x. But what is 1 minus sine square of x? That's right, that's equal to cosine square of x. It's coming from the sine square plus cosine square equals 1. But what is 1 over cosine? That's equal to secant, but since we have square, so we can write down secant square. X would have been our final answer. Number 16. If the if the tangent to an angle is negative, and then, so that means tangent is negative, so we're looking for second and fourth quadrant. And secant is positive, but what does it mean by secant being positive? Secant is 1 over cosine of the angle. So that means simply cosine is positive because when you reciprocate a fraction, the sign doesn't change. So we know that secant being positive, that means cosine is positive. Then we are looking at here and here. So that means we are looking at fourth quadrant, which is choice 4. Let's look at number 17. Cosine is positive, that means here and here. Cosecant is negative, that basically means sine of that angle is negative as well. So when do you have sine being negative? Third and fourth. So once again, our answer is choice 4. And this was number 16. All right, number 18. Angle theta is in the standard position. Its terminal side passes through this point on the unit circle. Since this is unit circle, the x value is equal to the cosine. So we're looking at cosine of an angle. is equal to 1/2. So what value of angle would you get cosine ratio to be equal to 1/2? That's equal to 60 degrees. And you can see that sine of 60 is equal to radical 3/2. It matches as well. So choice 2 becomes the answer. Number 19. What is this expression equivalent to? Now, cosine, cosine, sine, sine. In fact, that talks about the sum or difference of the angle of cosine. So I'm going to write down 4x and then 3x. But when you look at the middle sign, that's equal to positive. That means in case of cosine, the opposite sign should be in the middle. Then we end up getting cosine of x, which is choice 3 becomes the answer. All right, let's look at number 20. How about here? Sine, cosine. See, cosine, sine, they're alternating, sine and cosine. That means we know that it's a function about sine, or the ratio about the sine. And I'm going to write down two different angles, 15 degrees, and then, 75 degrees and 15 degrees. Since in case of sine, they follow the exact sign in the middle, so then we're going to subtract them. What do we end up getting? Sine of 60 degrees. So that's basically what we have done. Number 21. A and B are positive acute angles. So sine of A is this one, cosine of B. So then how can I calculate this one? Positive acute angle, that means they're in quadrant 1. Then everything is positive here. So sine of A plus B is essentially equal to sine of A times cosine of B plus sine of B times cosine of A. Or I can write down cosine of A first. All right, then let's try to look at it. Sine of A is 5/13, so we got that one. Five over 13. What's cosine of B? Cosine of B is equal to 4/5, which is great. Now, sine of B comes from here, so I'm going to imagine a right triangle where adjacent side is 4, and then hypotenuse is equal to 5, about that angle. And what is the side length opposite from that given angle? That's right, it's 3, 4, 5, so 3 would have been the answer. So that means here, what's sine of B? Sine of B actually comes from 3/5. How about cosine of A? So when you draw another triangle, sine of A came from opposite is equal to 5, hypotenuse is 13, that means the adjacent side must be 12. So we know that cosine of angle A is equal to 12/13. And then, since we are adding them in, let's look at the first one. Here we get 20 out of 65, plus here we have 36/65. Then we get 56/65. So, which would be choice 1. Once again, they are acute angles. That means we are in quadrant 1. We don't have to worry about other stuff. They are all positive. So sine of x is equal to 12/13. Then how about, let's draw the triangle. Sine being opposite side is equal to 12, and then hypotenuse 13. Then we know that adjacent side must be 5. How about the second ratio? Cosine of y equals 3/5. That means the adjacent side is equal to 3, and hypotenuse is 5. That means the opposite side must be equal to 4. Knowing that cosine of A minus B is equal to cosine of x times cosine of y plus sine of x, sine of y. Then cosine of x becomes 5/13. Cosine of y is equal to 3/5. Sine of x is equal to 12/13. And sine of y is equal to 4/5. Then the denominator becomes 65. From the first fraction we get 15. From the second one we get 48. So once you combine them together, we get 63/68. Choice 2 becomes our answer. All right, let's look at number 23. How about tangent of A plus B? Tangent of A plus B actually is equal to tangent of A plus tangent of B. You can check this one on the reference sheet as well if you want to. And then 1 minus tangent of A times tangent of B. That means now I can substitute the values. So tangent of A, I can put 8. So we have 8 plus tangent of B will be equal to 1/2 all over 1 minus tangent of A is equal to 8 times 1/2. Then on the numerator, this is what we end up getting. But on the denominator, we get 8 times 1/2 becomes 4. And then 1 minus 4 becomes -3. But since because of the fraction, I'm going to multiply everything by everything by 2, then we end up getting 16 plus 1 over -6, which is equal to -17 over 6. That becomes our final answer, which is choice 4. Seems to be the answer. Number 24, express as a single fraction the exact value. So they want you to get the exact value. That means sine of 75. How can you get sine of 75? That's right, sine of 75 can be expressed as sine of 30 degrees plus 45 degrees. Now, that means we can rewrite this one as sine of 30 and then cosine of 45 plus cosine of 30 and then sine of 45 degrees. If you can get this one, then we're done. So sine of 30 is equal to 1/2. Cosine of 45 is radical 2 over 2 plus cosine of 30 is radical 3 over 2, and then sine of 45 is radical times 2 over 2. So once you combine them together, you can see that radical 2 plus radical 6 over 4 becomes our final answer. And with that, we're going to finish up for our review for the next exam. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.